Gabby Flores. Gabby, you look on my other page. Okay, not yet. April Jones.
I'm here.
Bess Bailey.
I'm here.
Yvonne Salinas.
Here.
Tara Adler.
Here.
And then myself and Eric. Who I see on here.
All right.
I'm here.
Oh, sorry. All right.
I'll
Well,
mute myself.
do you want to, April, you want to go ahead and go over the minutes and then we can approve those?
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to like juggle multiple screens here. Oh, wait, sorry, that's the wrong one. Okay, here we go. Come on, open. Okay, so the last meeting, it was called to order by Brandy at 7 o'clock. We had in attendance Jessica, Gabriella, myself, Bess, Tara, Lisa, and Eric. Lisa Tull read the minutes from the last reading, and those minutes were approved by all committee members present. The committee reviewed the first draft of the proposed bylaws. Revisions were made as follows. Article 2, purpose and mission, was reworded to address the equity aspect and to include information about the committee's strategic plan. Article 3, definitions, we added definitions for historically underrepresented and residents. Article 4, the role, the clarification of reevaluation frequency in section 2, additions to section 7 to include city policies, programs, and other committees, and minor revisions in the remaining sections. Article 5, membership, the expansion of membership guidelines based on the discussion, specifically how to maintain the EIC's goal of representing those voices in the community that often go unheard. And we made changes to language regarding removal of members, and we removed sections 5 and 6 regarding additional members. Article 6, officers, changes to the election process were made to reflect decisions reached during discussion. Article 8, meetings, revisions were made in concordance with the discussion and the decision to meet monthly with special meetings and subcommittees as needed. And then section 5 was to be drafted by myself, April Jones, Tara Adler, and Lisa Tull, and submitted to Eric by February 1st. Just a substitution, we actually ended up changing that, and it was Yvonne in place of Lisa. And then the meeting was adjourned at 9:41 p.m.
Any questions, amendments, or changes to the agenda as read by April? All right, the minutes were approved at 7:04 p.m. Thank you, April. Okay, so as an icebreaker for all of us, we had all kind of decided that we would do kind of like a get to know you, to get a chance to introduce yourself, why you're here, what makes you passionate about equity and inclusion work. Bess, did you have, I don't know if there was something you wanted to add to that? I know.
No, I don't remember who posed the question in our first meeting, but it was the idea of what brought us all here to be a part of this committee and to be interested in the work that we're going to do over the next 1 to 2 years. So I think that was where we wanted to start today.
All right, sounds good. Any volunteers to start that process so we can get to know one another and the city can get to know us as well?
Before we do that, Gabby looks like she is here as an attendee, but not in the panelist portion. Stephen, are you able to help assist with that?
Yes, she's
gone.
coming in right now.
Oh,
There she is.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks for the heads up.
Thank you. I thought it was user error on my part. It usually is. So thank you, Stephen.
all right, any volunteers to start with the intro?
I'll go.
Okay, Gabby, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you guys. I have lived in Northtown for 15 years and almost 16. And what really got me interested, engaged in this group is that, I mean, my day job is equity and diversity for Children's Mercy Hospital, but I'm conscientious that I also live in this community, and my kid went to North Kansas City High School, and you know, he is biracial, and you know, we had to have the talk many times about how to interact with police in our community. And he would, you know, I live maybe 3 blocks, so he was a walker. And so that's really wanting to make sure that our city is inclusive is really what brings me here to this space. So thanks for the brave souls that got it started and who took it to city council. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Gabby. Anyone else want to go next?
I can go. My situation is similar to Gabby's. We are foster parents and adoptive parents. And so when we bought our house in Northtown 3.5 years ago, we chose North Kansas City because it was a more diverse area. We did not want to go into foster care and live in a suburb that was predominantly white, knowing that we could have other kids in our house that did not match our skin color. And so it was important to us to be in an area that had a little bit more diversity. Getting into and living in Northtown, I've realized that it's not what I thought it was. And so this is a really great space, I think, to kind of start having these conversations to be better at these things. Our daughter is Black, and I don't want her to grow up in a space that she doesn't have images for her. And so it's just, I want to be able to be inclusive for everyone. And I'm definitely learning as a parent. I am hesitant to be in a space like this, but I'm excited to be able to use my voice and be helpful.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, go ahead, Yvonne.
Okay, so I'm Yvonne, and I've lived in North Kansas City for almost a year, but I've worked in this area I've actually, the house that I bought, I was working for the man that lived here. So I've been in the area for about 5 years. So I love the area. And honestly, what got me into it was I wanted to understand the craziness that went on the Armour Street renovation. That kind of freaked me out. And so when I moved here, I was like, you know what? I want to get on there. I want to find out what was the reasoning behind it. I want to get to know the city and, you know, the people, where I'm going to raise my kids, and etc. And so far, I've loved the neighborhood. It's been so welcoming. Everybody here. I haven't had any issues with anyone, and I hope not to. And I hope this is why we're doing this. But what I want to also bring is, like, I see things I would like here, like in the neighborhood. We don't have any like parks and, you know, easy way to get to the park from my side, at least. I live on the North Kansas City side by the hospital. So it's hard to get up to Mackin Park, and we don't really got anything over here. So I just wanted to get involved with the city a little more. And then I met Amy Clark, and that's why I'm here. But so yes, thank you for having me here. And yep, I can't wait to see what we can do.
All right. Awesome. Who's up next?
I can go. I am originally from Northern California. I grew up in a mixed race house. I'm half Japanese, half white. And as I was growing up, I didn't have to think about diversity, and I didn't really have to think about what it meant to have an equitable or an inclusive environment, because it was kind of just in the neighborhood we lived in and the schools I went to. That was a really big priority for my dad. I got into teaching 10 years ago, and I've taught in mostly underserved communities. I teach in Kansas City proper, and social justice and equity, I think, is at the heart of teaching, especially in the communities I've taught in. And because of that, I am incredibly proud of the work my school has done to make sure that our staff is diverse, as well as we are constantly learning and evolving as humans, because I think that's important work to do, just to be a part of our humanity. So that's really like started the work I've done with social justice, and I've really enjoyed doing that. My husband, who I will sing his praises often, he nominated me for the committee because he sees the work I do, and we have conversations at home about what it means to be not of the majority and to be in an underserved population. And I don't think those were conversations he had growing up. And I would argue that most people don't when they are in the majority. And because of that, I see it as my call to make conversations that have people questioning like the comfort they've lived in a regular thing. And I'm really excited and proud to be part of a city that is willing to take this on as a challenge, because it's not easy work to question the status quo people live in, but I'm really excited to be a part of it.
All right, Bess, thank you. Anyone else want to go? I don't mind going. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. I came here to start over to North Kansas City, and it's been amazing. I was nominated by Mr. Saper, and I am grateful to be a part of the committee. I've done some diversity and inclusion work at the university level as an undergrad college student, and I fell in love with it. I love making plans and coming up with ways to make things better for not just for me, but for people that are coming after me that may look like me. So I'm really excited to be able to work with all of you, and I feel more welcome to this neighborhood than I ever have. So this is amazing, and that's all I got. Next.
Go next. So where to begin? I don't know. I think for me, it's having a committee like this in a neighborhood where my child is growing up is really important to me. I grew up in so many different neighborhoods. We had sort of a tumultuous childhood, ended up living with my grandparents for a while, who were fairly well off and therefore lived in predominantly white affluent neighborhoods. And I realized as a mixed race child, Hispanic, African-American, white, there wasn't a lot of spaces for me to learn about myself or learn about my own culture or learn about, or even just to see people who looked like me throughout my community and positions of, city government, et cetera. And then, yeah, just getting older and growing up and learning more about the world. I think for me, I think collaboration and progress are really important. And I think in order to experience progress in any way, we have to acknowledge that like things change, time passes, we need to keep up with that. And I think I just noticed in our city, we were sort of struggling to keep up in the sense that we've had people in these positions for many, many years, and or they're, in a position of city council and then jump to a committee or a board. Whereas we didn't, I think before this election, we didn't have a lot of new, younger people trying to step in and fill these roles. And I think this committee as a bridge between the community and the people who serve the community is vital. I think it helps to fill that gap that I think when I was young that I felt like existed, that there wasn't really communication about this. We didn't talk about things. We didn't really talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion when I was young. So for me, I think this committee is just a really good starting point to open up conversations, to work more hand in hand with the members of our community and to make sure that we're not overlooking anybody. But that's it.
I think that leaves me. So what the part that Jess left out is that she was instrumental in getting this group going. She started this. She deserves all the credit for that. It came from initially, there was around the time of all the protests last summer, there were a few citizens that spoke up, concerned about, if anything like that were to happen in our community. There were some issues there, and then it branched off from that. Jessica did a ton of research, worked with one of our council members, Bryant, and got this ball rolling. And of course, I jumped on the opportunity to be a part of it because we've got several people who are more than willing and qualified to speak up for people of other races. And I wanted to kind of represent some of the other underrepresented communities, specifically the LGBTQ community, and then people who have any kind of physical disabilities, especially those that may be considered invisible, as well as people with any kind of mental disabilities, mental illnesses, which I think a lot of our houseless community members are probably experiencing. So those are my two particular areas of interest. I also noticed, I just moved here 3 years ago. A friend that grew up here recommended this neighborhood after she found out I was moving to Kansas City. Brandy, I actually lived in Omaha for 25 years, so we'll talk about that later. But I know after I got here, I noticed that most of the people living here, it seemed like they were white, middle class, married couples with children. And I didn't fit into all of those categories. I'm white and that's about it. I've got children, but they're grown. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of use this as a way to connect with other people who also are outside of that little circle. So yeah, that's it. But yeah, high five to Jess for getting this going. Thank you.
Don't undersell yourself, April. You were so pivotal in a lot of this, showing up to like every little community meeting we had.
They're in the park, 6 feet apart.
Helping us with everything. So don't pretend like you weren't involved. And Lisa. Lisa was actually quite pivotal as well, for the record. Speaking of which, Lisa, do you want to explain what draws you to this?
Yeah.
Sorry, technical difficulties. I was holding up. I didn't know if you wanted me to or not, but yes, I do. So I, like a lot of you have said, I love our community. I think it's such a great place to live. I want to be a part of shaping it as it grows. And I think this committee that was born of citizens that saw something that was wrong in the ordinance and they acted on it. And so when you stop to think, like, how can we take that and make it more permanent as we grow our city? And that's why I thought this would be important, that we have something that's actually a North Kansas City committee through the city, which I know makes sometimes meetings a little bit more difficult, but I feel like the legitimacy of having it through the city is important. I think obviously we all know that there are a lot of tough conversations that have to happen. And I think it's a safe platform for that we all come to the table wanting to do good for the community, even if things, sometimes are a bit rocky. So I said this before to other people, but I want to say it to anybody that might be watching. If you find yourself offended or put off by something that's said in the committee, I would like you to please feel free to contact me. It will happen. So I'm not saying if, it will. And that's just the nature of the work. And I'd love to talk it through with you. I'm also a teacher in the North Kansas City School District, and this has been their initiative for over 2 years. And the training that we've received has been amazing for a group of people that, even if you feel like my heart is always in a good place, and I do feel like my heart is always in a good place, you can see some of the implicit bias that you're carrying that you don't even know about. So looking at the structure of our city, I'm hoping to bring people in, and I'm hoping this is kind of a gateway to government. So I would like to see more faces represented in all parts of government.
All right, well, awesome. I feel like we are all definitely here to do the work, to put in some sweat equity and making our community a safe, open, driven space for all. So moving forward, it looks like we're doing our bylaw review and adoption. So please forgive me. I can't remember who all came together. I believe it was Terry, Gabby, and April.
For the second one, It was April and Tara and Yvonne.
Okay.
Originally, it was going to be Lisa, and then Yvonne ended up.
Yeah, I knew Yvonne she had said in the meeting before that she really wanted to be involved and meet as a group. So I contacted her to see if she wanted to take my spot.
Awesome. So I guess we'll go ahead and take a look at what you ladies have come up with, and we'll kind of go through the same process as before.
So
Was it helpful last week when I shared screen?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go ahead and share.
And I was just going to say that everything that is highlighted is what we worked in, or the spaces we worked in. So anything that isn't highlighted, or a section that isn't highlighted, we did not go in and change anything, other than I think just making sure that things were numbered correctly and kind of spacing was done right. And even then, I can't guarantee that it is still totally correct.
So the first update looks to be here. We know we wanted to have that represent the hiring policy from HR. Tara, did this get updated, or do we still need to go back in and update?
It did get updated. We mostly used what was in the language that Eric sent over. I think we actually removed a couple things that maybe didn't quite fit into this space. It was more from an HR perspective. So I think that we should review that and just make sure that it feels complete for everyone.
All right, so looks like it says historically underrepresented communities are those who have been denied access due to their race, color, national origin, ethnic origin or ancestry, religion, sexual orientation, or gender identity, mental or physical disability, age, and any other characteristic protected by law. Residents are those who live within the boundaries of North Kansas City, regardless of housing status, including homeowners, renters, tenants, dwellers, and those experiencing housing instability.
Same thing with the residents. There was a piece that was in parentheses that we wanted to just make sure that we were very clear that it was not just people that rented or owned in Kansas City. So again, hopefully that feels kind of comprehensive for everyone, but definitely that's open to some conversation if anyone has thoughts on it.
And that was done with the intention of, some cultures have multi-generational, like more generations living in the home, even though it may be like one particular, person renting it, there's other people that live in the home.
I have one thing. Is there a difference between renters and tenants? Do we want to just combine that?
Well,
That's tenants, and what we kind of went back and forth on using tenants or dwellers to describe people who live there but may not necessarily be on the lease. And that was one of the things that we were going to bring that back to the committee for discussion.
yeah, because it says, but a tenant could be a renter, free occupier, or a caretaker of someone's property. So yeah, so like we should probably leave it, but I don't know.
Okay.
Between the three of them, we have everybody covered, right?
Yeah, that was kind of our thinking, is leave it all in there, and then we're really making sure we're hitting on everyone that is truly living within our boundaries.
That works.
Okay, so I don't know if there was anything.
I think, are we ready to move on to the next one?
Mm-hmm.
All right, next one is meetings.
Okay.
Okay, so for the meetings, okay, so it looks like section 2, EIC meetings should be kept up to 2 hours or less. Agenda items that require discussion or voting shall be included at the top of the meeting agenda. Items that require more than 45 minutes of discussion shall be tabled until the end of the meeting, or a special meeting can be called if needed. I like it.
So we struggled a little bit here. Do you want me to kind of explain our thinking and then kind of
Yeah.
loop everybody in?
Let's
So
hear it.
we started in the decision-making model area,
Okay.
and then walking through all of that, it started to not make sense that some of the like logistics around timing and how a meeting should be run didn't belong in kind of the space that we created for decision making. So I almost wonder if we should move to decision making model and then come back to this piece and see if that makes sense.
I'm down. It's up to y'all.
I feel like you guys are the ones who did this piece, and if that's what you think we need to do, I agree. But I like that 45 minutes.
Yeah,
for
we kind of just
talking point.
picked a random amount of time, and that was something we wanted to discuss with the committee, what felt like enough time to have discussion without some of these things we could probably talk on forever, depending on the topic. And so we wanted to have some kind of hard stopping times for everyone. But then also the decision-making model, just taking the feedback that we had from the last meeting. This is kind of what we came up with. Again, open to discussion if people have other thoughts.
I just think this is just 45 minutes is a long time to discuss one item. We probably need to shorten it to like maybe 20-25 minutes or less, because that's going to take up a significant amount of our meeting when we're limiting it to 2 hours. So,
Well, I think once we get rolling though, we're going to have like big items to talk about if we
That's what I
get
was
rolling
thinking.
where we're.
okay, so do we want to read over the decision-making model portion again?
Yeah, let's go down to that.
Okay, so for the decision-making model, it says the EIC will use a consensus decision-making model as a tool to drive discussion. Based on this tool, the EIC's meetings will be inclusive, so as many members as possible will be involved in group discussions. All committee members may add items to the agenda. Participatory, all participants are given the opportunity to contribute to the discussion. Collaborative, the committee constructs proposals with input from all interested committee members. Any individual authorship of a proposal is absorbed as the committee modifies it to include the concerns of all committee members.
Mhm.
And then agreement seeking, the goal is to generate as much agreement as possible. Regardless of how much agreement is required to finalize a decision, the committee should make a concerted attempt to reach full agreement. And then cooperative. Committee members are encouraged to keep the good of the whole community in mind. Each member's preferences should be voiced so that the committee can incorporate all concerns into an emerging consensus proposal. Member preferences should not, however, obstructively impede the progress of the group. Sounds good to me.
I do like all of this. I do think we need to include somewhere though that, hold on, let me find where it is. Collaborative. So it would not just be, I guess so C collaborative. It's not just us who's constructing these proposals from things that we're interested in. At some point, we do need to figure out a system to communicate with the community, whether that be just allowing them to call in during one of our meetings or something like that. But a lot of what we're doing should be driven by community input.
Should there be an F that says community driven or community focused maybe?
Maybe we could even, I'm just trying to read the sentence. We could even maybe just include it. The committee constructs proposal with input from all interested parties.
Or
Which would
How about
include,
committee members and community members,
okay,
That's what I was
or
thinking.
and the
too, as well.
community?
yeah, because we don't have community. I mean, well, I don't know.
How about committee members and the community? But that's
Yeah.
okay.
Looks good.
Yeah, I think you guys did a good job here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This may be addressed somewhere else, but it should be stated somewhere that we need to have majority. Oh, wait, sorry. 5 members of the committee.
It is
Majority of the
somewhere
committee.
else.
Okay.
Yep.
It's above. Okay.
Yeah, we did
I'm
that
just
too.
From a positioning standpoint, this decision-making feels more important to me than timing. I know it's not like rank ordered, but should we move the decision-making earlier and then you can talk about meeting flow or process? It feels like this is kind of our foundation, you know? I don't know. What do you guys think?
I do like that. Because that
So we could
is,
switch from section 5 to section 2. Wait. So are we talking about flipping those so that the decision-making model comes first, so it reads easier?
Mhm.
Yeah, and then the other stuff would come after it.
yeah, I like
Okay.
that.
Lisa, I have a question for you while we're getting this situated. Do we need to include in this anywhere when our like open meetings will be? Is there, or do we just figure that out later as far as having some community input?
I don't think we need to have that in here.
Okay.
I mean, I assume that once we get rolling, we would have time for community comments before every meeting.
Okay, well, I just saw tonight, so as the site was down, I think we all knew that. And then before Stephen had sent us that email, I was trying to figure out how to let people know that it's happening. So I definitely got it from somebody else, but it says like no public comments. I guess I'm just wondering, like, at what point do we allow public comments at the beginning of the meeting?
I would think after we're beyond
This,
bylaws.
okay.
Hopefully today.
Yep. Personally, I just would like to hear from the community. I feel like it's been us and they're the driving force of this, and we should hear what they think and what they would like to see, like the same way that we did tonight, where we talked about what is important to us and why we're doing this. Like, I think I'd like to open it up to the community as well to hear from them and see what they think is important for us.
You could do that. Absolutely, you could do that. I was just keeping it in the front of the meeting.
Same as council meetings, but I do think that instead of like city council meetings, people can make public comments, which, like I said in the past, like you guys have the decision to respond to later or not. I think for us, it would be more of an open conversation kept to a certain time limit, of course.
Mm-hmm. Well, we just have to talk to Stephen before we did that, because I know he sent this out, but we can't send our own links. There would be a public link, just like there is. Yeah, so we could totally do that. I'm not sure that needs to be in the bylaws.
Okay.
All right, so we made the switcheroo. Any questions or comments or concerns about the switch we just made? Or language, anything? All right. What else do we have on here, ladies?
And then we could probably talk about the timing pieces of that, if it,
That's right.
just based on the conversation, if do those time limits and keeping things moving feel good? Do we want to talk about doing different times? That was just in our smaller group what we felt was reasonable, but nothing to really base it on.
If necessary.
I was just thinking it was just wrong because of the 2 hour or less time frame, that's all. But if it works, it works.
I think I'm fine leaving it up to 45 minutes. I don't anticipate that being a very common chunk of time. I could see us doing a discussion closer to 15, 20 minutes. But obviously, like if we need more time to discuss, like I don't want to feel limited to not have that.
Okay, so I think as Lisa said, though, we are going to be eventually diving into things that need to get done. And I know we're meeting once once monthly, first Thursday of every month. And I think I'm on the other end of it where I'm wondering if limiting it to 45 minutes is a good idea or not in the bylaws, which means like, I don't know, to me that says like we can't go over 45 minutes, but what if we need to? Because some of these things that
Well-
we're working on might be multiple meetings or.
And then we call a special meeting at that point, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
that's-
I think, what we were kind of thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that way it would give us that flexibility that if we needed to use the full 45 minutes, we can, and then we can kind of decide if we want to move forward and then like save it for the end of the meeting if we have 15 or 20 minutes left, or if we need to call a special meeting or save it for the next time, just to give us some flexibility in that.
Okay. And to make sure we're kind of getting through everything we have to get through.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, because we'll probably have several, especially in the beginning, I feel like we'll probably have a lot of different topics we'll want to cover and things and initiatives that we'll want to be working on. And I think we could pretty easily stick to one topic for an entire 2 hours potentially for some things. So
Agreed.
okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns on the timing? All right, chugging along, ladies.
So I think at this point we have all feedback implemented, and I don't know if that means we're ready to vote on it or if we would like to take time to read through it one more time before we give our final like thumbs up. Yeah, I'm ready to move forward.
Thinking, ladies, would you like to read through the entire document again? Or do we trust that this is good as is? We went through it the last time for about 3 hours. What's the consensus?
Yeah, I feel like we only needed to review those changes because we spent, so much time on it, do the other stuff last time, and that was basically approved already. Not officially, but I'm fine with voting on it now.
As am I.
Agreed.
All righty. Okay, so
You need a motion?
yeah. Anybody want to start off with making a motion?
I'll make the motion to vote on approval of the bylaws.
All righty.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
I,
Aye.
Any
Just a minute, Brandy. We can't see their faces to know who said aye, but we could also just do a roll call if you want me to do a roll call with everybody.
yeah, let's go ahead and do a roll call.
Okay.
For it.
Give me a minute. Put that away. Okay.
Okay, so do we need to start back at the motion, Lisa?
No, I was trying to go in the same order and I just got rid of my committee thing here. Give me 1 second. Boards. There we go. I'm trying to just do it all in the same order. I should just print this off so I don't have to look it up every time. Okay, I'm just gonna have to look at faces because I cannot find it. Okay, Jessica.
Yep.
Yes, April,
Yes.
Brandy,
Yes.
Gabby,
Yes.
Yvonne,
Yes.
Tara.
yes.
Okay, hold on. Who am I missing? There's no way for me to go back. Did I get everybody? I only have 6.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Bess,
Yes.
is that everybody? I don't have my list. And I can't see your faces. So that would be 7-0.
Yep, so it looks like we're good to go. The bylaws have been approved, 7-0. Any questions, comments, or concerns about the motion and the second and anything like that?
I'm proud of us for getting through that
Everyone,
and passing our first motion. That's like a big deal.
let's go.
Congratulate ourselves. Also, the three of you who worked on that, like you guys did a great job. That was, I think, the hardest when we were discussing like how to break all of that down. And then you guys just made it so clear cut and easy. I really appreciated it. It's good. I like it.
Well, you guys did the hard part the first time, so we only had to go in and like focus on a few things. That felt a lot more manageable than the whole document. So we were happy to do it.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Exactly.
All right. So the working meeting portion, that was just for the bylaws, correct? I'm looking at the agenda now.
Yes, I'm so sorry. You're a big part of the committee. I'm horrible with names. But I have my list in front of me now in case people want to vote on anything else. I'm totally ready.
Well, let's just start doing some random voting. Let's just go for it. Go big tonight. Yes, Brandy, that was the bulk of our meeting. We hadn't discussed what else we wanted to discuss tonight, which feels like a poor use of time, knowing that this is our February meeting. The next thing we were going to do is announcements, and I don't know how you guys would feel about this, but what if we shape our announcements into like things we want to talk about in our next meeting, so we have more work behind us rather than coming together without a clear plan?
Sounds good. I think for moving forward, it would be nice if we could start off our next, this is just because we talked about it maybe a few moments ago. And I think it would be nice to open up our meeting to the community just to kind of see how they feel about, us right now and what should be on our table, and work off of that. We've got the bylaws in place, things like that. But if we can open it up, take calls or do a live chat, I don't know how that works, but that might help us a lot.
Because is kind of next steps, are we thinking would be to start kind of building out a plan for what we, like a strategic plan on what we want to work on and priorities. And so it would be good to have community input when we start doing that.
I agree.
I agree with that. I think that's probably the next logical step for us to figure out what the community wants. Or just basically the same thing, like I said earlier, the same thing we did, what the community's vision for this committee is, some of the things that they would like us to tackle. And then I think from there, we can then kind of prioritize ideas, kind of like figure out exactly where we're going to jump in and what we're going to get started on. So I agree. I think community input's important.
I'd also love to hear what City Council would like us to focus on as well. I know in the City Council meeting on Tuesday, Anthony Saper brought up the approval of a new appointment, and we didn't have the data necessary for him to be ready to move forward because of the demographics he wanted to hear about in the hiring process. And I think I just want to know that the City Council put in a lot of work to get this approved, or at least are willing to hear what we have to say. So I'd just love to know a little more about that as well.
What he had brought up was hiring practices in general. And what he had asked for, I think if they had a heads up on it, they have the information, it just wasn't at their fingertips. But yes, that's definitely a big topic, is hiring practices.
Well,
Here's what I see.
yeah, and I think
Getting input from the community brings us to the most difficult thing for any committee, whether it's PTA or City Council or the Equity and Inclusion, is communication. So we want to get feedback from everyone in the community, and we know that having it on an agenda item on the website is not how we're going to get feedback. So if you guys want to discuss maybe how you envision us reaching out to the community to get feedback, to get people to, like, if they can write in, email, phone in on these calls, just what your thoughts are about that.
I personally like the idea of them phoning in and emailing in, and we can check it we can either answer the phone during the meeting, or we could check the email and talk about what we got. And it could be anonymous, one that shout out their name or anything, but I
personally think leaving it open to also somehow because I know there are people in the community who don't have access to the technology to jump onto these Zoom chats. And I think that's part of our goal is to ensure that we're getting everything to everybody. So I think some method of writing in, even dropping it off with is it Crystal who would probably handle incoming messages like that or incoming information like that? But basically just some way for them to communicate with us. But I also think that's secondary to us communicating with them. They need to know that this is happening.
That's kind of what I meant. That's kind of what I meant. Like
Yeah.
if we had a way for them, how are we letting them know? Like us just announcing it on an agenda isn't going to reach people.
I know I'm fairly annoying when it comes to things like this in the sense of just telling everybody who I see. I don't know if you remember voter registration, but I think I asked everybody who I know multiple times if they were registered, regardless of their answer. And I think for us, it might be something similar to that until the world opens up again and we have events, because in my mind, I would imagine if we were having any of our community events, whether it's Snake Saturday or something like that, that we would potentially have some sort of little booth or information that we could give out at things like that. Like, I think that's definitely going to come. But for now, I think it's more about word of mouth, getting it out there to people, letting them know it's happening, and being annoying.
Are we allowed to do flyers like or kind of canvas in our wards or drop things off to people? Is that?
That's what I was going to ask about too, flyers, if we were allowed to do any kind of flyers to let people know, hey, we've got this committee. If you have any, feedback, here's how you can.
And
I read
specifically
about it in the newsletter, in the city newsletter. That's where I heard about it. So we could always do an update,
that would be helpful.
regularly about, go check out our charter if you want to give input. Here's the link. If you want to call in, here's the link. I don't know who the editor is of the newsletter, but I mean, you had asked, I think, for some potential future agenda items. And I think that we also need to, at some point, think about a more, whether it's looking at the data the city already has, and I'm not talking about hiring data per se, but that would be part of it. But is there a way that we can collect data from the community members around specifically diversity, equity, and inclusion and what they hope to see, what they've experienced? That could be something long-term that we plan for as part of our plan. And then I feel like one agenda item, maybe not so much for March necessarily, and I'd be willing to do this work, is to summarize. Just shared a really cool tool from a community in Oregon that's light years ahead of us, and we need to borrow what cool stuff they mapped out and use that as our template. They have done a lot of great work, and it would save us a lot of time if we kind of understood their process. It's not that we have to keep it exactly that same way, but I'd be willing to synthesize and present out like their steps and process at a future meeting, if that's helpful, because I just think that there's going to end up being a lot of community work that's going to take us, into the housing pieces and maybe the policies and procedure pieces and ordinances. So I think that if we can see how they did it and see if there's a way we can customize it to North Kansas City, I think there's some great learning from that.
I haven't looked at that yet. Is it like a strategic plan type of stuff that they had?
Beaverton, Oregon, years ago started something that they called DAB, the Diversity Advisory Board. So basically it's what we have created here, except they are, like she said, light years ahead. They've already had it implemented for years. They've already reviewed it. They've already, done their strategic plan. No worries. But I would be willing to help you for the record, because I've already looked into all of that so heavily, and I think there's already some of it broken down somewhere. But I just agree that essentially looking at what they've done, we can kind of figure out what direction we're headed in. But yeah, so if you go to Beaverton's website, Tara, and find their DAB board, I think some of the documents I sent were pretty just kind of skimming the surface, but there's so much in-depth information, basically the steps they took. Definitely they already have their strategic plan, which would be pretty good for us to look at moving forward as we're developing ours. But so they have their strategic plan. They also have their review of the strategic plan, and then their second version of their strategic plan, I believe. That might even be third, I could be wrong. But basically they've already done all the work. And I think, as she's saying, like, it would just be so beneficial to us to take pieces of what they've done, which is literally how this committee was created. It was a lot of modeling it after theirs. So yeah, so all of that would be super important. I know I did send some of it, but I mean, you guys are free to go to the website and kind of dig through and find it all for yourselves too, because there's so much more than what I had sent.
I also like the idea of something that was started outside of the committee of really fast, 15-second video, 30-second video of different people from the community that we can feature every time we meet, just to see all the people of North Kansas City. I really think that's a great project too.
I like that idea.
It wouldn't take a ton of time.
It wouldn't, and it gives us a face,
Yeah.
Good idea.
I've got a question. Oh, sorry, Yvonne, go ahead. Your bubble was lit. Just a quick question about is there the ability to have a diversity and inclusion page on the website where those videos could live and there could be a statement about diversity and inclusion? Or is that maybe our very first low-hanging fruit that we tackle as an action plan or as a strategic plan?
So I like that idea. I've also heard something about the newsletter and who writes that and how do we get included in that. So I don't know what those answers are. I don't know if Eric has some clarity.
Yeah, I could work on that if you guys knew what you wanted.
Yeah, this is Eric. We have Kim Nakahodo, our assistant city administrator, sort of our editor of the newsletter, but sure, we can include sections in the newsletter about the activities of this committee, and we could certainly include a page on the website devoted to this committee. So either one of those is easy enough to do.
Great, that's helpful.
Did we ever make a decision on a committee email where they could potentially reach out to us?
I think we could set that up as well, Stephen. We could do that easily enough, could we not?
Sorry, couldn't find mute. We could. There may be a licensing fee associated with it, just FYI.
Well, we can take care of that.
Okay, just wanted to make sure, but yeah, technically it's no problem.
Can I jump back to, I don't remember exactly who, Tara, somebody, the flyers? I just think the newsletter is great, but it's also mostly online. I don't know if there is actually a physical copy of the newsletter that goes out, which is a barrier for some people. Also, I feel like I'm knocking on the city a lot, and I love the city, so I don't want to do that. But the reality is, a big part of this committee being created was a lack of transparent communication, which just meant channels of communication between the city and everybody who lives here. So in my opinion, a flyer or, canvassing, as Tara said, something where we can go around and reach those people who probably wouldn't read the newsletter or maybe don't follow on Facebook or whatever, but some way to engage everybody so that we know that even if we are falling short over social media or whatever, we actually had a physical copy of something that we could hand out, as well as partnering with certain businesses. I know that there's a lot of businesses in the community that support this committee, just from creating it. And I know that if we were potentially to have some sort of handout and talk to them about it, there's at least a few who would be glad to, you know, hand flyers out to people as they come in to get the word out about it. So those are just two options that I think are important, something more direct.
As far as reaching different members of our community, especially people who have been underrepresented in the past, question one would be like, what translation services does the city offer for their communications, as well as what resources do we have amongst us to get things translated to make sure we reach more people?
Can I speak on that? I know as far as translating, it depends on what languages we're planning on translating it to. I don't know what the city has currently, but I definitely have people I know all over who speak many different languages. And we also have people in our community who speak some of our most spoken languages in the community. I think as far as us finding people to translate things for us, like, I don't know if that would be difficult. I don't even know if we would have to go through the city, because I don't really know what the city has in terms of that. I think as of right now, and I could be wrong, please correct me, Eric, if I am, but I think as of right now, it is the minimum requirement by law, which is that they have legal, anything that is court related is currently translated or translatable, versus everything else, which I don't know if they have anything for that to translate the rest of. So basically, if you go to the city webpage, if you go to like the court section, you should be able to find it, I believe, in like Spanish and English, but that might be the minimum. I know there is like a state or federal requirement on that, but we also know that Spanish is not the most spoken language other than English.
I throw out an idea on that. We have the most diverse high school in the state. And we have a lot of high school students that need volunteer hours before they graduate. So it's not a permanent fix, but they also do have an equity and inclusion committee for high school students ran by high school students. And we could reach out to them and see if anybody would like to earn some of their community service hours by doing something like that. I mean, I know it's not like an official, this is our policy to do this, but I think it would be a great way to engage the high school students and a good way for them to earn time.
I like that. Also, I think that's kind of a bridge to us because we don't actually have an age limit on this committee. We could have a high school student on this committee. I know we have 2 more slots to fill, so that would be something to think about. Just throwing that out there.
That will be amazing.
I think it'd be a cool perspective.
I just want to, I would love to partner with Lisa and maybe, you know, the school. I'm gonna put on my city hat and say there's liability involved when you translate things and you don't have any checks and balances. So that was my previous job, was language services for Truman and Children's Mercy. So I'm happy to.
That totally makes sense.
So there's, yeah. So I mean, if you don't, I mean, not that high school students aren't going to do good quality, but we'll have to figure out a quality.
Yeah, we certainly do not want high school students to have that. I mean, it would be our burden, but still, yeah. Good point, well made. We will involve them in other ways. I would not be able to check it and make sure that it was written correctly. I think I'm 0% helpful there. So a different idea then.
No. I'm not saying disregard that idea. I think they could help us develop it. They can even do the translation, but we can have it validated pretty affordably, right? So that they could be partners with us, but we would just make sure that the language is exactly what we're trying to communicate. So I mean, I think it's a really great way to collaborate with students. We would just have a little bit of quality check at the end.
All right. I don't know.
So it sounds like there's a couple different veins based on the trends we've heard. One is making sure that we get ourselves out there and we do what we've committed to do, including our community. That being said, is there anyone that wants to work with coming up what we would want on a website page or like email communication, things like that, so we can get the ball moving before March comes up, especially as we request community involvement?
I'm always willing to throw myself in there just because I'm trying to get as much done as I can while I can. But everybody else. Do we want to just do like 3 people again? And then we can, so here's the thing, I can totally do it. I know a lot of time constriction or whatever. I can do that and then send it off to other people. Like, so maybe we do 3 people again. I guess
So
similar
are we thinking on the flyer, what we want is the questionnaire that you guys were talking about? Are we thinking that we just want information about the fact that we exist and how they can contact us? Like, what's the main objective of the flyer?
Personally, I think we should include a little snippet about ourselves. We should also be concise because it is a flyer, but essentially that we exist, who we are, what we intend to do, and then open it up to what would you guys like to see with this committee. We could include some of those questions, but essentially just getting all of the information out to them in a clear way where they have contact info, essentially information about us, contact info, and then maybe a couple of like prompt questions or things to prompt their engagement and what they would like to see.
Okay, so we would need the
I'll look
email
at the-
set up for that, right?
Mhm.
And we talked about maybe having, I think Eric said last time, we could use the main number if there was a phone call, if somebody was to call in. I'm not sure if that's right though, Eric, is that right?
Sure, but if they call the main number, they would need to, I guess, indicate what it is they're calling about, and then we would try to route them to the appropriate person.
And alternatively, they can use the raise hand function in the Zoom.
Oh, yes. So, I mean, from what I'm hearing, you'd like to have that available for your next meeting. And so we can certainly set up the meeting that way so that people can call in, and we can have a public comment section at the beginning of your meeting where people can, just like at council meetings, where people can call in with their thoughts. So I would assume you'll have that on your next agenda.
Personally,
yeah.
I would prefer, yep, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, in terms of having a main number to call into, it's just, we could route them to somebody. They might not always get a person. They might get a recording or something. Let us know what you'd like us to do, and we'll figure out a way to do it.
Eric, can I make a suggestion? This is Stephen, by the way.
Yeah, please do, Stephen.
I mean, I can set up just a voicemail phone number. Of course, it would be up to, somebody in the committee to check it, but it would be 412 whatever, and we could leave set up a greeting, say, hey, you've reached the Equity Inclusion Committee, please leave us a message, and then they could record whatever they want. And again, as long as somebody in the committee is willing to call it and check
That's
it.
perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Stephen, what are we thinking on turnaround time on that though? Like, are we going to be able to have a email and a phone number set up before our next meeting next month?
Oh yeah, I can do that tomorrow. There's no problem.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. I didn't want to like put too much
That's
on you. I know you
amazing.
do everything. It's a lot.
That's okay.
But yes, so if we can do that before next meeting, do we want to then do essentially a small group of people who are going to figure out how we are engaging the community, like what our plan is in that, how we want to get information out there about it.
One more way to get a hold of us, if you give out the city address, mail could just be put in my box and I could be sure to check it before our meetings.
Okay.
If you want to throw that out there as another way.
I'm happy to be in charge of the voicemail. This is, if I can like check it and bring those to each meeting.
Okay.
And set it up and all that. That's helpful.
It is.
Can I
And
just
if we
ask
need
a quick
somebody to
question?
keep track of the email address or help monitor that, I can help with that too.
So is this small group of people, you're going to have 3 tasks, right? So 1 is to develop the content for the flyer, 2 is to develop content for the web page, and 3 is to develop content for the newsletter. Much of it might overlap, right? You might be borrowing, but that little subcommittee is going to have those 3 deliverables ready to go for the next meeting? Or is it going to be live by the next meeting? Like,
I think I'm hoping that it can be live by the next meeting, and the beginning of our next meeting can be a small community forum. And I prefer to call it a community forum rather than community comments, just because I do want there to be open dialogue. If somebody says something and we want to respond back to it, I would love for us to have that ability. I think that's important, and it's just a concern that has been brought up by members of the community as far as comments during city council meetings, that they don't get to actually have any back and forth, or there's no resolution to whatever they have brought up, or no guarantee of it, should I say, because sometimes it is addressed later.
Eric, is this type of work limited to the only 3?
Sorry, limited to what?
To only 3 people? This type of work that's just creating a newsletter and such?
Yeah, unfortunately, if it's more than that meets, then it's getting into Open Meetings Act.
Okay, I thought it probably was, but I just wasn't sure. I thought if it was just clerical stuff, possibly, but okay, I just wanted to check. Thank you.
Yeah, and just as long as I'm here real quick, on the newsletter, question came up. The newsletter is a physical newsletter that's mailed out. Now, it's only on a quarterly basis though. But we do put it online as well, but it is a physical newsletter that's mailed out to every resident.
Okay.
That's the North Kansas City connection, right? That's what we're talking about.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
And then there's also like the weekend review that goes out via text and.
Will our meeting information be wrapped up into that as well? Or can it be, if it's not planned on right now?
You mean as in like when we meet, what times, things like that?
Whatever the updates are so the weekend review updates that we get on Fridays in the text, if you get it or not, it kind of just does like a summary of what happened in the week. And I'm not sure if we have a plan to include any updates from this meeting in that or not, but if we could do that, I think that would be really helpful, because I know it's like a quick, easy, like tap the link open and I like read through it quickly just to know what's going on.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, so then back to what Gabby was saying. So this, I guess then we are doing a group of 3. 1, do we have any other volunteers of people who might want to overlook some of this? 2, Gabby, do you want to do the same thing with the Beaverton stuff? Essentially do like a group of people who help you go through all that, or if you're good with handling it on your own, or like what was your vision for that?
My vision was really just, you sent me the link and I scanned it. I want to, if I have a more firm deadline, then I will really read it and digest it and dissect it. And I'm happy to just report out like their process and their key themes that they, because if I remember correctly, they described their early process, which is what we're in, but they also described their strategic planning process and their initial outcomes, if you will, like their committees and then their goals and strategies for each of those different buckets. And so I can just come back and give like a 10-minute overview of that with a little PowerPoint. And I can do that solo or together with others if they want, whoever. Some people don't find that fun.
I love that kind of stuff personally. Okay, so I guess for next meeting then, those are our 2 goals, is to have a forum at the beginning, something where we actually engage with people in the community, to have that all set up by then, to essentially have a fly, or do we want to, I guess what I'm wondering is, do we want to put off the forum section until April? Or do we want to do it next month? Do we think we have enough time to essentially get all the information out to as many people as possible and set everything up before the next meeting? Or do we want to give ourselves time, which would be 2 months essentially, to prepare a flyer, get it printed, to get it in the newsletter, things like that?
I think worst case scenario, nobody calls, which,
That's
you
what I
know,
was thinking.
just
too.
open it up. And the worst thing that can happen is that we didn't get to them and they didn't call, but at least, you know, it's available.
Okay.
You know,
Well, and I'm also mindful that elections are in April. And so I would hate for that to get all confused with that. Or we could even, you know, try and do it again. Like if it's a dud in March, then we use April and do more canvassing and then try again in May or June to have another community forum. See if we can reach more people. I mean, I think, yeah, you just try it.
can we
And
get
then
a
I think,
flyer?
go ahead.
Like if we can get a virtual flyer, we could blast it on Facebook, put it in a neighborhood group that we already have. It's easier. It's a one click, you done.
Again, it just brings me back to the fact that, so when we were setting up essentially like people of North Kansas City, any of those other little community projects that we were working on, we found there's a pretty large majority of people here who don't have internet access.
Right. It's just another avenue, not the
Yes.
just another.
I think we have to blast it everywhere, including, like I said, being super annoying and telling everybody you know about it.
And it's not like these efforts are going to stop, you know, after this. I mean, we're going to keep doing that. This flyer, we're not just going to post it all over the next 3 weeks and then be done. So, you know, I mean,
I think we do what we can with what we have in this amount of time, and the idea is that we continue to build on making sure that we are being as inclusive as possible. And so it's not going to be perfect from the get-go either, but we're talking about it and we can keep improving on it. It does feel overwhelming trying to think through, like, how do you get to the entire population of Northtown and North Kansas City for the next like 3 weeks? You don't, but the goal is that that's why we're here, so that we can really be able to talk to everyone and figure out how we can communicate with people. And we're not going to get it right the first time. So.
Okay. I like this. I also think as it gets warmer, we could consider something like the police or I guess it was just the police, but the police forum, where if we wanted to go sit up at a thing at Mackin and have people actually come up and talk, like we could do something like that in the future. But yeah, I agree. Jumping in, getting started, important.
And that could easily be, I mean, we talked about having subcommittees. That could easily be one of the subcommittees is just the marketing, marketing, but yeah, you know, that kind of
promotion. I think promotion is what we used in the thing, promoting us, promotion, self-promotion, or whatever we called it. But yes, I agree. So anybody else who wants to join in on this, or I can just send it. Oh, yep, cool. April
And Brandy and Yvonne.
Yeah,
now.
Brandy.
And Yvonne. So now we're up to 4. So rock, paper, scissors.
Who wants it most?
Actually,
fight for it. Rock, paper, scissors.
That's
don't
how we
forget,
handle
if you
things here.
want to do my project, don't forget, you know. there's
Gabby,
my
I would
project.
actually, I would probably
say.
hop on that one if you want. I like to geek out on strategy stuff. So
Yvonne or Brandy, do you want to jump on that too, or would you prefer to do this? Because I will.
I'll work with
I want to work with you, Jessica, on one. So I'll stick with, yep.
Brandy?
Yeah, that's cool.
So are you going to jump on with Tara and Gabby, or are you going to stay with us? Because I think we can only have 3. Somebody's got to go. I'll gladly step out. It's fine. You can.
Okay, let me say something else. Let me say something else about the newsletter. When you get it put together, you can send it to us. We just can't reply all. So just send it to everybody and we can post it around all the places that.
But it has to be done. Like I can't.
Yeah, no,
so
that's
I
what
was
I mean.
essentially, yeah.
we can't collaborate with you.
Yes,
But
that's what
when
I,
you're finished with it, send it to all of us and just
So that
everyone
you
knows ahead of
guys-
time, you can't, don't give feedback, like you're just getting it. What you get is what you get. And then we can all use it in all the different areas that we go to and places that we post.
okay, so who am I working with on this? Yvonne, you and April, or just want to clear this so that I know who I'm sending things to? 'Cause-
Because Gabby and Tara, y'all need an extra person, right?
yes.
Yeah, I'll pop over with y'all.
More the merrier.
Thanks.
Right.
All right. I mean,
Well,
honestly, it's pretty
Right.
fun. If this is the kind of work that you're interested in, breaking down what Beaverton did is genuinely very like informative. I call it fun. It's a lot of data and information and fact finding, but it's a lot. So you definitely have a lot to jump in on there. So April, me and Yvonne, and then Tara, Gabby, and Brandy.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
And I will do the next agenda.
Okay.
And when you get done with your flyer, blast it out to us and nobody give any feedback.
Mhm.
And then we'll be solid.
Could we maybe call a special meeting for the feedback, just in case?
No, I think you guys will do a great job.
I think the three of us, yeah, it's like I
Yeah.
think as long as we have more than one set of eyes on it, we should be
It'll
good.
be
It's-
solid.
Yep. And we can get
And like
together.
Tara
It's up to
said,
you.
it's not the last thing that we're gonna put out there either. It's just the beginning.
All right, so I will shoot a message to you two, and we can either get together or whatever you guys want to do. We'll figure it out.
All right. Cool.
I'll do the same.
Thanks, Gabby.
So does that essentially set our agenda for next month as well? Or no?
I think we'll cover our communications group, our Beaverton plan group. And then I think we'll probably start talking about what our strategic plan next steps will be that come from our updates from Beaverton.
All right.
And another thing, just on the rules, if there's something that you want to bring to the committee to discuss, you can email it to Beth and all of us. Like, can you please put this on the agenda? We just can't all talk about it before the meeting. But you
Okay.
could just say, this is something I want to have on the agenda. You could email it out, maybe in bold, say, please do not reply.
Mhm.
And then it can get added, and that's something that could be officially on the agenda.
Lisa, what if we were to put together like 3 or 4 PowerPoint slides that, with the review of our findings or review of our research?
Yeah.
Does that have to go to someone in advance, or can it just be shown? Can we share screen and it can be shown?
Eric, I'm not sure if that would have to be in ahead of time. I mean, it certainly could. They could have it in ahead of time. But if it's on the agenda, does the PowerPoint have to also be published ahead of time?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
So we
But
can
it-
just share screen and it'll get recorded that way. It'll
Yeah.
show up if Sally Joe joins the meeting, she can see it.
Mhm.
Okay.
So the Monday before the next meeting, before the end of the day, workday Monday before the next meeting, what needs to be in is the minutes from this meeting and the agenda. Is that it?
Lisa, I don't know if you have any information on this. I know it's not you're not the one doing it right now, but do we have any update on our other 2 members? Are we ever gonna get
We
more?
will soon. There's somebody's going to be on the agenda for the next city council meeting.
All right, cool.
So yeah, for one spot.
We know
That's
more,
exciting.
gentlemen, or what are we looking at here?
Cannot tell you because this person has not been approved yet, but I believe will be on the agenda for the next meeting.
Cool. So tune into the city council meeting to
Tune
find out.
in.
I'm excited. I hope we fill both of them, but that's okay. One's good. It's a good
And then
start.
Yvonne, we'll just still need somebody from your neighborhood. If you know of anybody,
Okay,
have them
Annoy
apply.
people. Just go bang on doors and be like, how do you feel about the equity? Until somebody's like, yes, and then send them to the city.
okay.
I'm telling you, annoying people really works. They get so annoyed. With voter registration, annoying people until they do it was the way to do it. Because they're like, fine, yes, no, yes, I registered. It's done. Like, thanks. I know I asked you 1,000 times, but
Go vote.
Glad it's done.
speaking of which, if you guys aren't registered voters, which I'm assuming you all are, please go register.
Public
I
service announcement.
have information, but
Members,
everybody,
if you're not a member of the Y, please join the Y.
there you go. Or check out their awesome like cooking classes, and just a lot of cool stuff going on. We have a cool city, guys.
Yeah, we do. All right.
So are we set for next meeting? Got it. Okay.
Okay, then, if there are no questions, comments, concerns, this meeting of the EIC for North Kansas City meeting is adjourned at 8:21 p.m.
Bye, ladies.
All right,
Bye.
Easy
thank you,
Street. Bye,
guys.
Bye, everyone.
Have a good Super Bowl.